to Menopause University, where you learn everything there is to know about menopause, recognizing it, managing it, embracing it, and preventing the diseases common to it. I just love giving you this education because I know it saves lives. Most women have no idea that menopause is about so much more than just hot flashes. But here at Menopause University, you've learned that it's due to estrogen deficiency. And you've learned that there are diseases that are a direct consequence of estrogen deficiency. But you've also learned that people incorrectly attribute other diseases to the presence of estrogen that actually are not caused by estrogen. Breast cancer is one of those diseases. So this is a great big unit on breast cancer that began with video number 356, and here we are at video number 404, still talking about it. So this is the 49th video in the unit, and it's on the herbal options for preventing breast cancer. As you know, all of chapter 30 in my book is on breast cancer, both first and second edition. And everything I cover in this unit is in the book to some degree. But most things are much more elaborate here on YouTube. In the previous units on heart attack, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's disease, endometrial uterine cancer, and cervical cancer, you discovered that there are some herbs that can help decrease your risk for some of these diseases. But you've learned that you can't just use any herb for just any purpose. Every herb has specific goals that it can accomplish and other goals that it cannot accomplish. The key is to know what each herb can and cannot do. Generally speaking, herbs are a lot like medications. In fact, some herbs are used to make medications. But there are some big underlying differences between raw herbs and the various medications to which they contribute. The first big difference is that the herbal industry and the pharmaceutical industry are regulated very differently. In fact, they are complete opposites of one another. The pharmaceutical industry is a very heavily regulated industry that is all about precision in terms of making sure every drug is what it claims to be. There are all sorts of approval processes and research studies that are mandatory before marketing a drug. And even after a drug goes to market, it has to include a great big insert of warnings, risks, side effects, and details about the drug and its ingredients. The herbal industry isn't like that. Herbs are plants that anyone can grow in any kind of soil, using any kind of fertilizers or pesticides. Once grown, they can package them in any manner without omitting contaminants. There's no regulation, research, or reliability of herbs. One batch does not match another batch, and contaminants are the rule rather than the exception. Once packaged, the herbal manufacturer can make any claim he or she desires about the herb's benefits or capabilities. There's no requirement to divulge any side effects or risks, so herbal products do not come with a warning insert. That makes the consumer erroneously conclude that there are no risks, when in fact, there are just as many risks with herbs as there are with drugs. The only difference is that the herbal industry doesn't have to warn you about them. So when it comes to utilizing herbs to manage your menopause in general or to help prevent breast cancer in particular, you have to know a few things. First, you have to know which herbs can help in which way. Second, you have to know how much they can help. Third, you have to know the possible risks of using those herbs. So let's address these things with regard to herbs for breast cancer prevention. And remember, this is limited strictly to herbs for breast cancer prevention. Please, please, please do not extrapolate this to other diseases or purposes. I feel a quiz question coming on. Don't get mad. There's no grade in this school. This education is whatever you choose to make it. When it comes to utilizing herbal options to help prevent breast cancer, which of the following statements is true? A. Chasteberry is the most beneficial. B. Wild yam is the most beneficial. C. Dong quai is the most beneficial. D. Licorice root is the most beneficial. E. Black cohosh is the most beneficial. F. Hawthorn is the most beneficial. G. Any progesterone-containing herb is beneficial, while any estrogen-containing herb is detrimental. H. Any estrogen-containing herb is beneficial, while any progesterone-containing herb is detrimental. Did any of those options resonate with you for one reason or another? What did you use as the basis of your answer? Was it a matter of just picking one with no real thought about the logic? Or did you try to systematically consider the reasons why each answer option might be valid or invalid? What have you learned in this menopause education or this breast cancer unit in particular that might have guided your answer? Well, without more ado, I'll show you the answer. It's in bold. So licorice root is the most beneficial herb for helping to prevent breast cancer. But licorice root is not just the most beneficial herb. It's the only herb that has any benefit whatsoever in preventing breast cancer. Now let's try to determine why this is the case. But let's start by addressing the last two answer options in the quiz question. I'm guessing that you thought that one or the other of those last two options was the correct answer. Option G stated that any progesterone-containing herb is beneficial, while any estrogen-containing herb is detrimental. I'm going to bet that you picked this one as the correct answer. And I'm going to wager that bet simply because of what I like to call imprinting. Imprinting is when you are so conditioned to think a certain way early on that anything you learn to reverse that way of thinking later on has difficulty taking effect. In other words, because there is so much misinformation about estrogen causing breast cancer, the fact that I have systematically presented all the evidence against that misconception is not enough to overcome your early imprinting about it. Even though videos 380, 381, 382, 383, 384, and 385 all address this misconception about estrogen causing breast cancer, it is very likely that you instantly reverted back to that way of thinking in trying to answer this quiz question. Well, am I right? Did you? Likewise, I'm going to bet that you immediately dismissed option H as false. Option H stated that any estrogen-containing herb is beneficial, while any progesterone-containing herb is detrimental. Why? Because of imprinting again. You see, this is why I tell you to watch my videos in order. I come back to things again and again. I make sure you see the logic. If I don't teach that way, you will never retain any information long enough to make use of it in a logical way. So now let's turn our attention to licorice root. In previous videos, you've learned that licorice root contains estrogen. I have licorice root here in many forms. I've got the actual root, the fragment of the root, the tinctures, some capsules, some powder. I've got all kinds of stuff here. All of this is licorice root. No matter what the form, licorice root is estrogen. So here you have only one single herb out of all the herbs on planet Earth that has any benefit whatsoever in helping to prevent breast cancer. And it contains the very hormone that you have been so programmed to believe causes breast cancer. Isn't that shocking? You see, sometimes the one and only option is not what you expect it to be. So licorice root is not at the root of causing breast cancer, and neither is estrogen. I just love it when all the different pieces of a puzzle come together in a logical way. In videos 380, 382, 383, 384, and 385, you learned that estrogen all by itself actually decreases your risk of breast cancer. And now with licorice root, an estrogen-containing herb, you are seeing that same thing again. And notice that licorice root is merely capable of helping to prevent breast cancer. This means that it cannot prevent breast cancer all by itself, and it means that it cannot treat breast cancer. And chasteberry, which is a progesterone-containing herb, has no benefit whatsoever in helping to prevent breast cancer. So always use logic to find answers. Don't be impulsive. You've been conditioned by fear to be impulsive and to react rather than to think. I'm trying to teach you how to replace impulsivity with logic. Now, the third thing you always need to know about herbs is the potential side effects and risks. So what are the side effects and risks of licorice root? Well, the risks of licorice root in large quantities or for long periods of time include high blood pressure, low potassium levels, fluid retention, fluid and electrolyte imbalance, abnormal heart rhythms, muscle cramps, and liver toxicity. So everything has both benefits and risks, regardless of whether or not there's an insert warning you about them. So the lesson for today is very, very simple. There's only one herb that has any beneficial effect on helping to prevent breast cancer. And it's licorice root, which contains estrogen. I hope you didn't find this video too shocking, because you'll need to come back in a week for yet another video on the medication options for preventing breast cancer. In the meantime, you'll find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Stories, Pinterest, and you'll hear from me in my newsletter. And I would love, love, love to meet you in a consultation if you schedule one at menopausetailor.me. I'll see you next time. Bye.